Good evening and welcome to the January 21st Conservation Commission hearing meeting. First on the agenda is minutes, but before we discuss that, I'd like to remind anybody who has electronic devices, phones, pages, Game Boy, whatever, please silence them. And during the meeting, if you want to make public comment, which I always encourage people to do, please go up to the podium, announce who you are, be recognized by the chair, just so we can keep our record straight. Our records keeper sometimes doesn't get to hear your voice clearly, and I may ask you to repeat it. So, and there'll be motions made and things like that. Don't think that I won't recognize people in the public. You know, it may move different than what you normally see on TV, so just bear with us and we'll work through it. First is voting minutes for January 14th, 2014.
I've read the minutes and find them complete.
2015.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have Mike's motion, Mary's second. Any further comment from the board? Seeing none, call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous, so moved. Next is a request for continuance under determination of applicability. The first is 207 Coonamessett Circle, Hatchville, Mass.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant has requested a continuance until February 4th.
So moved.
Second. That is Mary's motion, Mario's second. That is a continuance for a project at 207 Coonamessett Circle. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to comment on that? Seeing none, I call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Next is 201 Coonamessett Circle, Hatchville, Mass.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant has requested a continuance until February 4th.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, that would be Mary's motion, Russell's second. And again, we have continuance of this project. If there's anyone in the audience that has a comment. Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Next is request for continuance under a notice of intent. The first is Meganson Harbor, Ty Perini, Meganson Harbor, North Falmouth, Mass.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until February 4th. He's attempting to get the letter I requested from the Marine and Environmental Services Department.
So move. Second.
Michael's motion and Russell's second. Is there any comment on that project being continued? Seeing none, call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Next is a request for an amended notice of intent. First is Black Beach Harbor Head Association, Little Neck Bars Road.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until May 6th. They're still working with the abutting property owners.
I cannot make a motion, so
This will be the second, okay. I'll make a motion to grant the applicant's request to continue to May 16th?
6th.
May 6th?
They wanted the
6th.
first week in May, first hearing in May, and that happens to be the 6th.
okay.
Do you want a second first?
I would like a second, if I could.
Second.
Okay, that's Russell's motion, Mary's second.
Mary caught that.
According to the documents I have on this, this will be the fourth continuance.
The only, I can appreciate your concern on that. It's at the end. It should be something that, once there's the abutter agreement, I think we all came to we hammered that out pretty well. So I'd like to afford it some patience. I know that it's exacting on this, but I would hope that, I know we could put a caveat on here, this is the last continuance. and therefore,
Okay,
yeah.
we'll let them know.
If they can't hammer it out by May, they've had ample time to
Goes back
figure
to
something out.
October, before October, or sometime in
Four
October.
continuances? This will be the
Yeah.
fourth?
The first one was in October. First
Yeah.
continuance was in October.
Right.
So we went over this with the Zero Ferry Road, I believe. We capped that at, what, 5?
Well, I don't think this is in the same league as that.
That was a
because
notice.
This is a fairly simple project, but I think that if they can't hammer it out by May, they're not gonna hammer it out at all. So that would be my caveat to the motion if that was acceptable.
My own is that it does seem straightforward, is getting abutters to agree and to retread, to come back for another, we'd just be hearing the same thing, and I like the motion of moving it to the 6th.
Okay, that's what we have on the table. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to discuss what we were talking about with the Black Beach Harbor Head Association? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Now we're going on to request for determination of applicability. This is the lesser of two permits that will be discussed this evening. We go on staff's recommendation, they go out and visit the site, and we vote on their recommendations. If we have any concerns, we address them now, and a negative determination is what you want to have. A negative is actually a good thing in this case. First up has been continued, the 207 and the 201 Coonamessett have both been continued to February 4th. Moving past that, 55 Gunning Point Road, Gunning Point Avenue, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to install native shrub mitigation plantings in another location for compliance under DEP 253520, garage renovation and enlargement.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the staff has reviewed the project. We're recommending a -2 under the bylaw, a -3 under the state, with the resource area boundaries now confirmed.
So moved.
Second.
Michael's motion, Russell's second.
Did my,
Is there any other discussion on the board? Is there anyone in the audience who would like to talk about this project? Seeing none, call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved.
oops.
Next is Sea Scout Partners LLC, 350 Quaker Road, North Falmouth, Mass. For permission to install native tree and shrubs for mitigation and replacement to comply with projects under DEP 253872, cottage reconstruction, DEP 253670, entry landscape and courtyard drainage, DEP 253704, pool reconstruction, and DEP 253812, fire pit and putting green landscape project.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we've reviewed the project and are recommending a -2 under the state and the bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved.
Second.
That'd be Russell's motion, Mary's second. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to discuss this project? Seeing none, any further comment from the board? Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Next, Town of Falmouth wastewater management, 20 Academy Lane and 0 Robbins Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to install a bypass pump connection, 6-inch iron pipe, valves, erosion control measures, and site restoration at Inner Harbor Lift Station to install bypass pump connections, 12-inch iron pipe, valves, erosion control measures, and site restoration at Shivricks Pond Lift Station and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. That was easy.
The staff is recommending a -2 under the state and the bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved.
Second.
Russell's motion, Mary's second. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to discuss this project? Any further discussion on the board? Seeing none, call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Next is a request for a hearing under a notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. First is the Reba Rini Adams Property Trust, Lot 4, Oyster Pond Road, Falmouth, Mass., for permission to construct a wooden stairway down coastal bank, build a fence and arbor with gate, add stone steps, and replace stone steps with handrails, install native shrub plantings, maintain a vista corridor, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. I'm looking forward to this. Thank you. I enjoyed my walk through the site. I really did.
Okay.
Thank you. For the record, I'm Tom Bunker of DSS Design. We prepared this survey to create this plan for Renee Adams and John Adams. This property is located along Vineyard Sound. It's just north of the Fair Road properties, across from Jacques Road. And they have a house. The land is split into two parcels, one upland parcel where they have a house. They also own the other lot 4 between the bike path and Vineyard Sound down there. You currently see there's a house on here and the lawn coming down. They have a path, they have a fence and an arbor, a little gate there, and some stones along this side of the bike path. These stones are pretty hazardous to walk on if you didn't want to come down. Then to get to the other side of the property, you have to go along the bike path, up a steep trail here that's causing some erosion to get out there, and then there's a steeper path going down the bank to the rocky beach. The whole purpose of this exercise is to make a safer access route from their house to the beach. It's quite a rocky beach. There's pretty much no sand there, but it's still nice to visit. I go a little bit of the permitting process. We filed the NOI, and then I spoke with Peter McConerty, who's here now. We visited the site because of what we're proposing on the town property by the bike path. And we talked about that and felt that could be done, at least through the engineering department, as a street opening permit, the way a person would put in a driveway or something else onto a town way. So we'll be preparing that opening permit for the engineering department. But we also, Peter said we should also go to the selectman's office, and through the selectmen then also notify the bikeways committee, all these boards here to fix up this path. Selectmen said they couldn't do anything or putting it on the meeting until conservation acted. So I refiled this, part of this, or these little bits of steps here as administrative review. And Mark signed off for that as administrative review, so I could get through for that hurdle on that little bit of it, so we can go on. We'll be going to the selectmen soon to talk about it with them. But everything on the private property here would be subject to the notice, and also because if we get an order of conditions for work on town property, we can't record that order against the town property, so I felt it would be cleaner to do it as administrative review or an RDA. We got the administrative review for that part. So, I'll describe that part of it. There are these stones going down here, and they want to rebuild them with some better flat stones that people won't fall and trip down, and then align the path so you go across and put more. The bank on this other side is one now. I think the one now is about 6 feet high, and the one on the water side of the bike path is about 4 feet high. So there'll be some more flat, not sure if they're native stones, but flat stones built into the bank to provide access up the bank. In exchange for putting the path in through here, then this existing path right through here will be planted with native shrubs, aronia, chokeberry, huckleberry, viburnum, the typical woodland type shrubs that you would find in there. Fill in that path, and then across the top of the bank on the private property, the BA, they want to put up a fence. It'll be similar to the fence on this side with an arbor and a gate, so that it will be, not open to the public to go up and down there. Won't get too much traffic, won't be inviting more traffic, across the site and onto the beach. So I'll have an arbor with a gate at that location, and path going in, and through, there's now an open mowed area, has trees in it, limbed up trees. Path will go across to the top of the bank, and then down the bank. So I have a bit of a longer platform than usual. So what I did, I moved there's some posts back here, and I moved it back from the top of the bank, with footings in concrete back from the top of the bank. And then this post is, 8 feet long, or the landing is 8 feet long, so basically the cantilever is out 2 feet, so I wouldn't be putting the posts right at the top of the bank. Pull them back some. And then across, there actually is, well, there's a path there, obviously there's a path there now, but there was an older path with stones that kind of winds back and forth a little bit. We're putting in some types of logs across there as water bars, and filling in with loamy sand to try to heal up that eroding path that's down there now. Plant it with native grasses and things where it's underneath, and then fill in on whatever sides of the stairs with native shrubs to heal that part of it, and then the stairs going down with a landing at the bottom. Again, on a flat stone that we put down there. And this is, doesn't protrude out onto the beach. It's, I can't say nestled, but it's back in there. It's still protected by, there's a big cedar tree and all in there, so it's not going to be open to all the elements. And it is about 50 feet back from high water. That's, even though it's not sandy, it is quite a wide beach there. This is in a velocity zone. There's Vineyard Sound, that area up to up around to the top of the bank is a velocity zone. Aside from where the path is, it's a non-eroding bank. I believe it has a 50-foot A zone back to here. So all of this area is within the A zone. And then actually the jurisdiction goes back to the far side of the bike path through here. That's where we have to get, had to come to, at least through administrative review, the stone steps on that side. This area is mowed out and the trees limbed up through there. And so we want to kind of formalize that arrangement to some extent by requesting to maintain the 25-foot wide vista corridor through that location also. Getting warm?
Yeah, slightly.
You can't go to Florida, we got the room.
Right here.
I get this a beach there.
You're the best.
It does feel nice, I keep my heat so low.
So anyway, the steps would not be, they're not a structure in the terms of in the zoning bylaw, but it is a built structure, it is in the velocity zone, 104 square feet, which is, if you were to consider it a structure, it's less than the 200 square feet that could be allowed for work in a velocity zone. And it is a matter of safety for them. This whole project really is a matter of safety for the people to get from their house down to that part of the beach. There'll be a gate at the bottom, somewhere on these steps here also, so that, people won't be going up and down there. So it's not going to be inviting more of the public onto the property or across the bank or anything like that. But, oh yeah, I filed with MISA, it is within natural heritage, and we haven't gotten a letter back. I think for such a small project, I have no doubt we'll get the letter of no take, but we haven't gotten it yet. That is what we're proposing. I'll take your questions.
Thank you. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Tom, you'll have to have a continuance. We're going to need the MISA letter. So we can put you to the 4th. You should have it by then.
I would expect so.
Yeah. I am a little concerned with the whole cleared area, so if they're rerouting that path, clearing a new path, I'd like to see most of that clear area filled in.
Mhm.
Okay? Your Vista, there's no Vista permit for this, is there?
I don't believe so.
No, so, yeah, that whole cleared area, and I think I just calculated that, it's like 600 square feet. They'll have to add some shrubs in there
Yeah.
for that illegal clearing and the limbing of all those trees. As far as the structure goes, it's a big structure in a velocity zone, so staff's gonna have a little bit of concern with that. And your logs, your water logs on the bottom,
Hmm.
you're gonna have to jute mat that down too, along with after you put them in. I just don't think the grasses are gonna do well there. They may not. So you wanna protect that and not cause any more erosion. So I'd like to see some jute matting added to the construction methodology in that.
Mhm.
Other than that, those are my only comments, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just add about the steps in the velocity zone. I know part of the concern is could break apart and damage other properties whenever
I
there's.
can almost guarantee you during a big coastal storm, it will break apart.
Well, it'll have about, measured on the GIS, about 3,000 feet to really break apart, so fine particles before it gets to surf drive or anything like that. There are no houses or other structures along the way there.
I'm concerned about the resource areas, not a house. It's just a comment, Tom.
Yeah.
You know how I feel about structures in the velocity zone. If the board approves it, like I said, I want to see the jute matting in the construction methodology.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Mike?
The fence is, how long is the fence? I was worried about space above it.
I think
If
it's
it's
gonna go-
long enough in duration, you can go around it on the critters.
The critters. I have it on here, I think I say 30 feet each side of the arbor. It could be up some, I mean, it doesn't have to be down to the ground, it just, it's a little bit of a deterrent for people, and if it's up off the ground, they wouldn't notice that, and critters could still go under it.
Well, that's fine, and that addresses that. We put a lot of effort into the fence to the south, to be sure that happened, and, do that now would be, we have a limited length, I think it's still okay. There was staking on the property to the north for a shed. I take it that's gone away
Oh,
somehow?
that was, well, I didn't realize those stakes were still there. They wanted to, at the moment it's not proposed, they wanted to see about where a shed could go.
Okay.
But it's not.
So it's not part of this now.
No, actually, it's right up here, it's outside of the electric company easement, so it's way up here. And it's not part of this proposal.
Okay. That's it for me.
Russ?
Tom, what's the approximate depth below the stairway stringers to the surface? On that bank is what I'm curious about. 'Cause, I mean, you're talking about putting plantings in there.
Well, there's mainly, the plantings would mainly be grasses and things, and
You think they're gonna have a chance to grow into that?
I think some grasses could. I mean, they'll get a lot of morning sun when it's, coming in
Sideways, sure.
early like that. I mean, it's, where probably depend on how deeply that path is filled up, because at one point, the path would be probably more than a foot below the stringers. But obviously, as it gets toward the bottom, it's gonna be closer.
Yeah. What is the depth of the sonotubes?
I think 4 feet.
And then you're just gonna drop the 4x into it and then pour concrete around them?
Yeah, I mean, all the work, yes, it'll also be done by hand. They're not gonna get any machinery up there or anything.
Yeah, I guess you could use an auger, huh? Power auger, maybe? Okay, I'm all set. Thank you.
Mary?
I can certainly appreciate the desire for this project, and I guess my personal feeling about it is kind of mixed, but I don't see how it in any way conforms with the regulations. There's not supposed to be any projects on a coastal bank that meets about 5 characteristics of this coastal bank. It's in a V zone, slope greater or equal to 4 to 1, within 100 feet of land under the ocean, within 75 feet of land subject to tidal action, et cetera. So,
But some of these types of things are not the velocity zone part, but other piers are routinely permitted in such conditions. And I mean, if it wasn't so steep, I mean, they have no access to their
Right.
beach if it's not. I mean, as I
Right.
said, some types of projects are permitted within 75 feet of the ocean and things like that.
well, the velocity zone aspect is certainly my greatest
Mhm.
concern, and particularly with respect to the gate, I think. So, I will just have to,
Mary, you're quoting 10.37,
I was,
except as permitted.
Yes.
No
and-
project shall be permitted on
Right.
any portion of a coastal bank that is in a V zone.
Right,
You
and
are
when you
correct.
get to part 3 of that, it says notwithstanding, activities can be permitted that are listed in 10, 18, 9, or 10, and this isn't any of those activities.
Okay.
So I feel like I have a dilemma about this.
If I have to, when we come back the next time, I have to bring it in as a request for a variance.
Well, before you say words you don't want to, why don't we
No,
just,
I
why don't we continue down the
don't
board
know,
after
that's a
Mary's
tough
done?
one to get.
Yes, I'm the only one who's voiced a complaint, so. And it's not really a complaint, I'm kind of thinking out loud, letting you know
Observation.
what I'm thinking.
Yes.
So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Mario?
I have mixed feelings about it. Ordinarily, I would not be in favor of a new structure in a velocity zone. But having walked that darn trail, I almost broke my ankle at least twice. I mean, these are not just eroded footpaths going down that bank. It's a gully. It's 2 to 3 feet deep. If somebody come walking along the beach, tried to scale that, I think there'd be a public safety issue involved.
That's a stretch. It's private property.
It is
It's not a
private, yeah.
public safety issue, it's private property.
I mentioned the fact that somebody walking the beach might be attracted to, hey, there's a path going up to the
Personal responsibility, Mario.
No, there is a little hanging sign saying private.
Well, so I have mixed feelings about it. I think there is a safety issue involved, and but anyways, moving on to the Vista corridor, there's not too much detail about that. It looks as though there had been one previous in that area, or it was cleared.
It was cleared and limbed, I mean, because of that other.
Without a permit, Mario. No permit.
I think it was clearing, there's a path going there, and they probably
Nothing's easy.
limbed up to get the view that they wanted without going through the proper channels.
There are some trees in that Vista corridor, 25-foot band. That's just going to be limbed up. The trees aren't going to be removed, are they?
No.
They're not allowed to be.
No.
No,
Okay.
that's not allowed. I think they have enough there,
Yeah.
enough vista there without removing trees. I think just, the trees can sort of remain how they are and
Plant the.
Plant the
clear
shrub
air.
layer.
Good.
That's all I have to say.
When I was, good,
Tough call.
Giving some thought to the velocity zone. And is there something that could cause that, the steps are forced to come away with somehow restrained, rather than this thing in mass going away? Or if you give some thought to the engineering, I guess is the question. That could minimize potential to keep it there. If the answer is no, it's no, but I think it deserves the
Oh,
thought.
it could. I mean, it depends what you're feeling, what everybody's feeling is, what's better, if it breaks apart and there's small pieces going around, or if there's a big piece that's tethered with a cable that's, bouncing around in the waves.
when it comes to my turn, I got something to help you with that.
Okay.
Well, when I was reading this, I started to chuckle, because when I went there this afternoon, the backyard closer to Oyster Pond, no problem, get the steps, good God, you deserve to be able to get down to the bike path even. That is something that, on the other side, you've engaged town, made that aware, you're trying to make, form follows function. You're gonna be putting shrubs in, right? And better to ask for forgiveness than to get permission. It's already done, but here, we're gonna make it better, and yes, you will. Yes, you will. You've got your vista. There's gonna be 600 square feet of plantings, which will help inhibit the people from
Around that.
seeing the path that's the private path. I don't have an issue with the fence, as long as it's similar to the one, as Mike made mention. You get a little bit of,
600.
like you said, it's to keep people out. It's the two-legged animals you don't want to have doing stupid things in there. I wrote down these things, Sherpa, steep, Gollum came into my mind as I'm climbing up that bank. It's like something out of the Lord of the Rings. There's concrete and roots, and they step and they go winding. It was just, I was like, holy cow. Yes, I don't have an issue as an individual who's built stairs over the last 3 decades. I don't have an issue. I think that you could make them removable fairly easy. I did it all the time, where one slid up on the other. You get an eye bolt on the back of that 4x8, which is anchored back in your cantilever, and you use that with a come-along, or now they have cordless electric winches. You take that lower set, and I hate redesigning projects, I really do. But there's ways to accomplish that. You could take that out if you're not gonna, it's a seasonal home, but if you were using it year-round, you stick to your design, right? You may wanna talk to the building department about, they don't really like seeing concrete around the posts. It's a structural element, you may wanna use a mechanical connection, all right? At the bottom of that, where the connection goes into the tube, and then it goes and grabs the post.
Yeah.
That's one less thing that all of a sudden snaps and goes hither and yon, right? And in the future, if there's a piece that's poo-poo to do caca, you take that out, you're not pulling the whole post. If the support is good, the subsurface support. You don't have to deal with it, but just once putting it in. You really wanna, the footing is gonna be critical on this. Right, that's what's gonna keep the stairs there. This is generous, I think this representation on the plan, it looks a hell of a lot more steep than that when you're walking it. I don't think that the grasses would have any issue growing in there. I think that that's about all that you get to hold that bank.
You put the water things down, the jute mat. then the
We can,
grass.
let's see, I got the concrete, that's it, yeah, when you're going in there, the concrete that's in the root mass is there now in the stones. I don't know if that's worse to try to take it out or just to leave it in there. That's the only thing because it comes up and then it winds,
Yeah, goes to the
And-
side.
and I don't know if you're doing more damage because it's been in there for,
I would think we just leave it, unless it's gonna interfere with some of the other posts or something.
yeah,
that-
that's somebody's
Grow over.
creative thing. I almost guarantee you took a bag of sackcrete and just broke it open and just left it there for the rain to make a step. So the plantings in the cleared area. This is essentially a path. It's not a picnic area. It's a path, correct? So I can see that adjustment for the vista that is now established, that the plantings, and I think I've said that 4 times so far. The 600 square feet of plantings that is going to
That's fine.
augment. Okay, we know this is going to get a continuance. Is there any other questions on the board? Would someone like to make a motion for the applicant?
Make a motion on the request of the applicant to continue until
We're going to do the 4th on this one?
4th, Jen?
Yeah, the 4th will be fine.
February 4th.
It'll be a little
What's that?
busy, but it'll be fine.
It's 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, is that enough time,
Yes.
Tom? Or you want more time, you can.
Probably get the letter, but just to go over some of this,
Okay.
I wouldn't mind. It's okay to do.
Do you want the,
Continuance.
hang on one second. You want the 11th?
Yeah, do the 11th.
Okay,
The 4th.
Change that to February 11th.
fine with me.
Okay, that's Russell's motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mike's second. At this point, is there anyone in the audience who'd like to comment on this project? Seeing none? Mary?
I would like to just make a comment. Your Form 3 indicates that this is not, that you have no check for the the estimated habitat.
We sent it in.
Yeah, I got confused when I read your narrative, and I forgot to mention, but it does have no check.
It is in.
Is it in or?
Well, it's in
seems like
priority. It's in priority, is that right?
Well, I think that's why,
Okay.
because of the way that's worded.
Yeah.
It's in a
Priority.
priority habitat 385. But it's not in, I think we're confused about the wording of that.
Yeah, right. I was questioning that too, but,
I noticed it.
We had, whatever it is, I'd file with Visa or NHESP anyway.
No, this is, that one, yeah.
Is there any other comment on the board? Seeing none? Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Next, we have Town of Falmouth Beach Committee, 295 Quaker Road, North Falmouth, Mass, for permission to remove approximately 320 linear feet of 2 rows of wooden retaining wall, install a crushed stone footing 6 inches deep, approximately 240 cement blocks, with the top course consisting of a cap block for a wall height of 4 to 5 feet, the restoration of disturbed coastal dune with dune grass, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Jen,
I don't know what I keep doing with that.
you have any concerns with this?
I'll save any of my comments until after Peter's presentation.
Good evening.
Good evening, Peter McConerty, Town Engineer. I do have a request to approach the bench. I do have some cards and also a plan that was done later this afternoon with some color to it, if we could
Thank you.
pass it down. It's easier to go through the plan. That plan is actually this plan. We just want to go. I think the history of this project is this has been in front of the commission, I think, several times in the past, and this is the first time the engineering division's coming in to get involved with this. But what we had done is we went out and did a full survey of the parking lot. It's 2 lots, number 0 and 296 Quaker Road. Both lots owned by the town of Falmouth. The lot in question that we'd like to do, and the reason why we're showing both lots is to get to the rear lot, you have to get through the front lot. So the back parking lot is beach parking for summertime beach attendees, and there's approximately 98 spaces in the back. What has happened over the years is there's a wooden retaining wall, actually 2 wooden retaining walls on the side of the parking lot. The first wooden retaining wall was built in the 1970s, and I believe it was somewhere in the 1990 range, or in the mid-90s, that wall started to fail. So a second wall was built with basically braces and batter boards that show that wall, that braces into the parking lot. Get in the way of vehicles. Vehicles do have a problem with backing into them, and actually the parking lot lost 3 feet of space in the parking for vehicles to be able to back in. So what we're proposing to do is remove both wooden retaining walls and replace it with a concrete block wall. Concrete blocks are similar to the blocks that was recently installed at the Gus Canny Center. It's a one-layer block at the Gus Canny. These will be 3 layers high, set on a concrete base. And what we're trying to do is restore that portion of the parking lot between the 2 walls. So the face of the new wall will go against the face of where the first wall was into the dune. We did go out and stake the lot. There is approximately 9 feet that will be disturbed. I think that one of the biggest concerns is the coastal dune. There's approximately 9 feet within that area. It's a 25-foot wall. Behind that wall, they'll get disturbed because of sand. And what we're looking, if they go in and they pull those walls out and they dig behind that, the sand's going to slide, and it's going to slide into the parking lot. So that's the area that we'll be looking to replant. What we had done, constructability for it, this whole project will be done by Public Works. The parking lot will be swept first thing. We're expecting it to take approximately 2 weeks. The parking lot will be swept. No machine, it'll all be done with an excavator, rubber tire excavator from the asphalt parking lot. No machines will be on with any of the restricted areas around the dune. And the walls will be loaded into dump trucks and hauled off site. The dune sand will be placed in the parking lot temporarily until the wall is built, and then it will be replaced back into the dune. And there will be someone available from the engineering division to go out and do inspections and check the environmental controls. But also here tonight is Don Hoff, the beach superintendent. We're actually representing Don, but also Bruce Magato is the assistant, and he's on site during construction at all times. And actually, he works out very well with us because we get the phone calls if he sees something that doesn't quite look right. So what we had done is Don had actually been in contact with a gentleman from Sea Grant out of Woods Hole, and Greg Berman from Woods Hole Sea Grant, and he actually did a planting plan or a planting guide for us for that type of dune for that area. It's a 9-page report. It's in the back of the the book. And basically what I did with this afternoon with doing this color plan is I tried to replicate what was in his report on our plan here. So in his report, basically the 6th page of his report is basically his legend and his planting plan that we tried to copy. And what he showed for plants up there was American beach grass. And everyone knows what American beach grass is. Beach pea, seaside goldenrod, beach plum, and bearberry. I'm not familiar with all these types of plantings. We'll look at the inventory. This will be used as a guide. We'll look at the inventory to see if we can get these. But basically what this is to show is that when the dune is restored, it's not going to just be restored with beach grass. There will be other plantings there. There are 2 trees that are close to the back of the wall. If we do have to get close to the trees, we can either take the trees and remove them and stack them in the parking lot through the Parks Department and pack them, or we can, and replace them, or we can put new trees in, the cedar trees into the back of the parking lot. As can be seen in the photos in the report, the walls in basically it's in failure. It's at the end of its lifespan. Some of the photos in the middle show the broken braces. The walls leaning forward. The boards have been they're starting to rot out, and the nails are popping out of them. And I'm not sure when these were built how far those wooden posts were actually driven into the ground. They should be quite a ways in the ground. I'm not sure how far they went down in the ground, but this whole wall is leaning forward. And also, as can be seen in the photos, between the walls is it's basically it's sand, but it's kind of dead sand. It's not really a living sand. There's moss in there. There's debris in there. There's a lot of scrap in there. There's nothing really living between the plants. And then the rest of the area is a lot of poison ivy and kind of some invasive planting. So we'll be looking at taking care of that. That's basically the project. Right now, the beach superintendent is going for funding through the town. So we're hoping to get the funding this spring to be able to do this spring. We wouldn't be able to do it in the summertime. It would be this spring or this fall. And we met on site today with Jennifer to make sure we could answer all the questions we could on site, and it was mentioned, and we will make sure that it gets planted right after the construction happens too, so there won't be no delay in time for that. It'll all be done in-house. It'll be done through Public Works. We'll be working with the Parks Department and the Highway Department. It's already on their agenda for this year, so they already know that it's coming. It's just the time frame when it's going to happen, but they know that it's going to be coming up. And I think this has been the second or third time in the past several years that they wanted to replace this. I know Bruce gets nervous every time people go up there and park up there for the vehicles because, like we say, the walls are leaning. It's pretty rotted. So that's basically the gist of where we're at.
Jen?
Met on site with Peter and Bruce and Don. They answered the questions I had. There are a lot of invasives in there. Did Brocky go out and look at that cedar tree?
He didn't. I will get a hold of him tomorrow. We'll take a ride out and take a look at that.
I mean, the wall does need to be repaired. It was just, the board was looking for a tighter plan the last time, a more comprehensive plan the last time. And I think that this addresses those concerns. And Peter, can you, remember you were talking to me on site about doing 75 feet and 75 feet? You're not just taking the whole wall down and having everything come down, correct?
Yeah. Anyone in the construction field that's
Yeah.
been doing these things, what you don't want to do is start at one side and rip and tear, and then 3 days later you end up starting again if there's a rainstorm or anything for construction, it's sliding or anything.
Yeah.
We want to stagger the wall, maybe the blocks are 4 feet long, so we want to do 60 to 70 foot ranges, be able to take the walls down, restack the walls, and replace the sand behind the walls and move down the wall in that manner. We don't want to do a full one-time open up, so everything ends up in the parking lot. So
That would be bad.
yes, absolutely.
That's it.
Mike? When you start construction, you're going to structure that's 6.5 feet high. Have you looked at stability of that block wall?
Yeah, those block walls, they're stackable. You can stack them. I mean, you see some of them, they go 20 feet high, 25, 30 feet high. It's basically a dense, it's basically a gravity block wall.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm just looking at, I'd like to see some stability calculations. I'm not going to stop it, but
Yep.
it's
Yep.
not obvious to me.
Yep.
2 feet wide and 6 feet high. It's not obviously stable.
Yeah, what they are, it's basically just a gravity block wall that sits on top of each other, and you got the bottom layer that sits on the stone, and then each layer that goes on that, it has a little bit of a batter. So as they sit, the wall tends to lean back to the back.
Yeah, that's
So you got
good.
the forces pushing forward and the back pushing backwards. The top, there'll be 3 blocks high. The top block, instead of being a full top block where you're looking at 2 to 3 feet of just a concrete top block, what we'd like to do is use the blocks like we use down in the Gus Canyon, where you could just have 6 inches of the top, it rolls over the top of the block, and then it drops down 6, 7 inches, and then what happens is the fill fills right up behind that. So you're only looking at 6 inches to the top of the wall, and you're not looking at a big mass of concrete on top of the wall. Aesthetics-wise, it's gonna look a lot better out there than looking at the top of a block wall. We'll be able to fill right behind that.
I'm good.
Russ?
Peter, strictly just the sand that you removed is going behind that wall? There's no stone or anything, huh?
We'll put the stone under the wall,
Right.
in the back of the wall. I mean, under the wall, but then we'll put
Nothing in the back, huh?
No,
Okay.
no. Just
So that's
put
not gonna hurt drainage or anything like that, or?
That sand, that water's gonna, that sand's pretty light. It's gonna go right through the back of the wall. So,
Good deal. No further questions?
Mary?
It sounds to me like when it comes to removing invasives and whatnot, that's just a part of the project that's going to happen, and that's fine. But just to make a point, the poison ivy doesn't need to go if it wants to stay there. It's not an invasive. And I would, I'm not suggesting that we should keep it all, near the wall where it's going to bother people, but,
what we're gonna try to do is.
I wouldn't put it on the list of things to yank out if that's how the project goes.
We're actually, when we're moving those walls, we're not planning on removing anything. We're hoping that the slope of that the slope will hold better than 32, and we'll be able to get more out of it. We just said, thinking worst case scenario, that angle, that if that starts to slide, that's where it's gonna get disrupted.
That's where you're getting the 9
is the-
feet.
That's where we're getting 9 feet, right. What they're gonna do is they're gonna dig right at the base of the wall, and they're gonna remove those walls, and they're gonna put the blocks right back in. We're not planning on removing anything, but the planting plan, what we'll do is what is removed, we'll restore.
Okay.
That's done.
Mario?
I think the information we provided is what we asked for, which was, the restoration and stabilization of the coastal dune.
Yeah.
You put together a planting plan, species look good, and this has been an ongoing problem for a long time, and all we need is one good coastal storm, and some of those timbers could come right out, and, do you anticipate finishing this before tourist season starts?
Depending on the funding, if the funding goes through in April, it'll be done in, I think you get 10 days or 2 weeks after April town meeting. It can be start right in the middle of April, or it'll go right, they'll do it in September, they'll do it in October. So it'll be the April, October. I know the beach superintendent, and they'd like to see it done in April, because it's,
Yeah.
the wall's on borrowed time. So we'd all like to see it done in April.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I'm satisfied with the information you provided.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we went out and did all the flagging on it. As you can see, the whole thing is in the coastal, it's all in the coastal dune,
Yeah.
so, the whole area, so.
Well, this is a vast improvement for us to have for the record, all the information it's supplied. The comfort level's gone up immensely to be able to work with these things. And I have the greatest confidence, I said that earlier this evening, I have the greatest confidence about all the safety checks that we have with this. And again, tonight's a night for me and chuckling. It seems like just yesterday, there was a house in that parking lot. But,
Please don't go there.
yeah, so, if we have enough information,
We're not going there ever again.
I would entertain a motion.
Move to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Second.
That's Mary's motion, Russell's second. Is there any in the audience who would like to comment on this project? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and like I say, if there's anyone that would like to see different plantings,
I'm
what
sure
we're
that-
showing.
I think we'll be able
We'll
to,
go to purchase it.
We'll do it.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. The next one is continuance on Megantic Harbor with Ty
To
Ferry
February 4th.
to February 4th. After that, there's also another continuance, Black Beach Harbor Head Association to May 6th. And that puts us right into other business. We started this discussion last week on the
Yep.
dock policy.
I sent you all the actual document and former associate counsel's memo that was written in 2005 regarding it, and current associate counsel's opinion of it.
So who wants to step into this first?
Can I begin by asking a couple questions?
Sure. Please.
This is not part of our regulations, so I assume it is not, well,
It's not anywhere in your regulations.
right, but it's a policy, people, it's known to people who come
Correct.
before us. So, what, first of all, when was the policy adopted? About 80-something?
92?
92?
Something like that?
And where does it reside? Is it just?
It doesn't reside
Anywhere.
anywhere. It's a piece of paper. It's a policy. It doesn't reside in the regulations, it's not cited in your regs, it's not cited in the bylaw.
I think it was an attempt. My
Yeah.
recollection was
Yeah.
it was an attempt to help clarify things,
Yeah.
to kind of ease bridge a gap that was assumed, and that would facilitate people to a permit process, which is necessary. Regardless of the outcome of this policy, a permit is required for activities, period. That's our regulations. I sat on the board early 90s, and my...
Was this written in the early 90s when you were on the board?
It could have been.
Could have been,
I don't
yeah.
remember what I had for breakfast, so. John Rockwell, I think, was helping us. We were going through an expansion of, and redefining of the regulations back then when Joanne was on the board. Just again, to mirror the state things, and everything was an attempt to try to make it easier to understand and give an avenue for permitting. I think it's been confused over the last few years because of people trying to use it to their advantage to take care of situations. Some well-intended and rightly so. However, in my own personal observations in the last 2 decades, we've gone so far as if someone that owns waterfront property in the town and isn't aware of their obligations to be good stewards of their property, I'm really suspect of that. I no longer think that the naivete claim is valid. There's always an exception, and this board has been flexible, and I think has matured and been really good with the public over the last few years. We've been growing into stuff that we are a helpful board. Unfortunately, some of the regulations don't make it seem like we are. This policy, I think, is one of the things that was supposed to be helpful, but all it's done is muddy the waters. I think that the inevitable on this is that, in my opinion, you have a waterfront structure, it's unlicensed, unpermitted, and we're almost working backwards for what our charge is, what we're supposed to be doing, and I think it just makes it more difficult for staff and others to, I don't know, I just see it as a tripping mechanism. I no longer see it being useful. It just, all of a sudden, we always, every time someone mentions this, we end up town council being involved, and, you know, it ends up opening a door, that Pandora's box. And I think if we just have, doesn't mean if we no longer look at this policy on a day-to-day, doesn't mean that we can't come back and review something. I want people to think that, because no longer, that policy as discussed doesn't work today, doesn't mean that in the future we couldn't take, and again, possibly have
Adopt some different language.
and have something that would be more suitable to, it just seems to be a mechanism that always ends up, you know, and no offense to any attorneys that are watching, it just ends up being something that's, you know, we have two engineers, an attorney, an opposing attorney, and, you know, it just ends up, we have enough of that.
Very contentious.
Well,
Sorry.
it seems to me that there are at least two broad issues with this policy. One is the workload it imposes and the contentiousness of sifting through this evidence and trying to figure out whether it shows what it purports to show. It seems to me that the other more fundamental question, and maybe I'm missing something in the regulations, but it implies that if you meet these historical
Threshold.
criteria or the evidence of the historic history of the dock, then you can, you know, we're inclined to have to, or we have to, you know, try to help you do what you want to do, because the dock's been there and it's been in continuous use, but I don't see anything in the regulations
There isn't.
that says, in other words, there is no ground in the regulations for grandfathering a dock. It's, and
It's not there.
so legally, the effect is that we are often letting people do things that the regulations don't require
You
us.
have two opinions from, as I said, your
Right.
former associate counsel and your current associate counsel. Those are the legal opinions you have.
And Tom, I would agree with you, what you said about being skeptical when people claim that they don't know. I'm skeptical a lot of the time, most of the time, even when it comes to people clearing stuff, you know, trees and things. And I think that that's more understandable, particularly people who own property and their primary residences in another state where they don't handle things that way. But I think that most homeowners with waterfront property and a dock have a hunch that they, you know, there are licensing requirements and, you know, various requirements, and they ought to go find out what those requirements are. But anyway.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. One of the other sticking points I had, and it's just something, I don't like beating up on people, I truly don't. But, you know, some of the ways, and if I offend any realtors out there, I'm sorry, you know. Sometimes it's just not misrepresenting, but not totally informative of what your obligations are on that. Maybe they're not up to date on the latest regulations as of the last 6, 8 years, and there's an assumption. That's why getting, you know, that's another little dart that hits the board, because we end up, you know, well, I just bought the property and I, you know, well, yeah, but,
Due diligence.
you know, it's,
These things should come up in a title search though, shouldn't they?
I would,
No?
No, not if it doesn't have a license. If it's unpermitted and doesn't have a license, why would it come up on a title search?
right. And
Yeah, you're right,
therefore,
existing
Yeah.
violations.
Yeah.
But if the
You wouldn't see any
description
documents
is
in the
a piece of
registry.
property with the dock,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
it's
and-
not there in the title search, wouldn't you think that would set off alarm bells?
You would,
Yeah.
how many times have
One
we
would
seen?
think.
Yeah, we've seen things, this, you know, please can we get this compliance because we have the sale of the house, you know, we didn't know, you know, that type of thing. And we deal with that as a board, never mind as the policy goes, we're out of the loop a lot of the time, and it's staff. And then, you know, it's left to us. One of the toughest things that personally I've had to deal with is the evidence, you know, when you have historical evidence, yeah, I'd like to believe that the kid in that funny-looking bathing suit and the ugly-looking boat and the old umbrella are actually from 1963. I'd love to believe that, but, you know, that puts the
Yeah,
onus
and
on
then-
us.
It does.
And,
And
you know,
that's
the testimony given by people, oh, we had a party back there in 1958, oh my God, we had such a great time. These are wonderful things, and,
And the aerials we get often are just, they're not to the same scale. It's so difficult to make comparisons over time from those things.
and it doesn't give a real strong comfort level. I've been talking a lot. Mike, did you have something? I'm sorry.
Well, got conflicting views. The first is the policy itself. I don't know who would ever meet it. It says docks substantially damaged by storms will be considered changed. That says, and this is after 1978. So that means this thing has sustained Gloria, Bob, and Sandy. In order to, so I mean, I don't know how many docks that will ever meet that requirement all by itself, just the way this is. It has problems in my mind in that it says the dock must have been in continuous use. Does continuous use mean vacant for a day, vacant for a week, vacant for a week, a month, or a season? I mean, I don't know how you interpret the regulation, the policy. So, I mean, I've got problems with
language.
the policy as a whole in the notion. I have to stuck with that. On the other hand, and, you know, how many residents do you think this applies to?
I wouldn't even venture a guess, Mike. You would ask me to go up and down every coastal pond in the town of Falmouth and determine which docks have permits and which ones
Okay,
not. It's just not gonna happen. I don't
Because
know.
if this only applies to, I think, is something that comes to an RDA. That if you're gonna go for a notice where it is. And one of the things I'm a little reluctant about is we have some very nice little docks in town that have kayaks or little boats sitting next to them. And if we make them come in and say, we're not gonna have a dock, it's gonna meet the regulations, we're gonna have these bigger docks, which draw more traffic. So I think this thing has a very nice use. I don't like it the way it is, but I think it has a very nice use in that it allows people who have a structure that sits there, that they use it in the way they use it. It isn't, and they're not making it bigger, they're not coming back. And so I'm kind of, I'm torn between what this thing physically says, which I don't think anybody meets, and the burden it puts on. And I'm not, by the way, I'm not very persuaded by burden on the town, by you, Jen, because I mean, that's our job. That's what the town's purpose is. So but it saves some people a lot of money they may not need or spend. It doesn't do any good, and it preserves a culture that has existed for a long time, and I'm kind of in favor of it. And I don't want to, I'm very reluctant to say, have it go away without knowing what we'll replace it with. That's where I'm at, because I think this, I think it helped because of youth. A little bit with that stairway today, with walking by, and say, well, we're going to put this, it's clearly going to hurt because we got this velocity zone. But on the other hand, people are now going down that, and they've built a table and up on top and cleared it because they can't get down the bank. We let them put that stairway in, and I think we're gonna be doing the resource a bit of a favor. We're not gonna see as much damage up on top or on the slope itself. So I mean, and I have the same kind of mixed motion. I think our resources, let's face it, we'd be better off if we didn't have any people in Falmouth. The resources would be, if we just didn't have people, we'd be better off. But we do have people, and we have to do something that balances the needs of those, what those wants of those people against the needs of the resources. And I'm not sure this in principle isn't a bad idea. I mean, I don't like it, but I think I want to know what we're going to replace it with before we throw it away.
Okay. This is good. Mario?
Well, I have two questions. And before it slips my mind here, if we have just sort of like what we had at Zero Ferry Road, where we had just a few kind of dilapidated pilings, as I read this guideline, if it does not have a Chapter 91 license, then it can't be grandfathered for this board. Am I wrong on that?
They come to this board with RDAs because they need your approval to obtain the Chapter 91 license. Has to have local approval in order to have a Chapter 91 license. That is why you see them come before you. It's because they're attempting to legitimize the structure that has been there for,
Without
however long.
going into a full-blown notice.
Mhm.
Because once you trigger that threshold,
Can of worms.
Yeah,
Bigger-
because a lot of the, you had one recently that was in a velocity zone. Never should have been there, according to your regs. But now we're looking, as Tom says, at pictures, and I don't know who this person is. And it's really, with all due respect, Mike, we are here to guide you in your regulations and, on, science. Looking at a photo and believing somebody or not, that shouldn't be, that burden should not be placed on the staff. On whether someone's affidavit, whether that person
Well,
is credible.
if they don't meet this criteria, but I think we're down to the.
No.
We've had three reflections on this.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
the first one, the overperson, and the issue of what this regulation,
Yeah.
or policy, it's not a regulation, what this policy says,
It's not helpful.
it's confusing.
Yes.
And I think if I take it at a strict interpretation, I don't think there's a dock in town that it applies to.
Oh, no.
I'd be very surprised if you could find it. If you take it as narrow as it does. Even you say in continuous use, what does that mean? If you take your boat away from the dock,
I didn't write it,
that's
Mike.
not nobody's using it. Is it in use?
I adopted it when I came to work for you guys, so I didn't write it.
Yeah, no, I don't, but I'm back to the fact, and well, the other, and it's on how we address this. I think we as a commission has to decide how we're going to deal with it. If you're going to deal with it, one way is just make it go away. We don't have the power. And the consequences are, by head count, we don't know.
No, I don't know.
So we don't know who we're
I don't know.
affecting or not, and I'm slow to do that. I'm sorry.
even though, if I may interrupt just for a moment, even though we're affecting them with a policy, there's still the regulations. If they want to improve their dock to do that, they can do it through a notice of intent. It's not to be, and I can truly appreciate budgets and concerns and historical use and continuous use, but I think I've calloused over the last few years. There's still a mechanism for someone to come in with a dock that doesn't meet, that they don't have their Chapter 91. They could do it through a notice of intent. And when they do that, they have to show the performance standards. I think it makes it easier for us. It may not make it easier for the applicant, but it'll make it easier for us because the regulations are clear. We have a track record. We're able to do that every time that we end up doing, not every time, I stand corrected. There's been more than one occasion when this policy has been granted, that we've had a very winding road. And it ends up being a notice of intent anyways, and all the adjustments for the regulations and the performance standards end up being met.
I'm gonna say, get back to your point, and I'm gonna stop, because I think I've walked around that bush once, and we're gonna go around it one more time, and then I'll stop.
No, this is good, Mike. This is helpful.
I think there's a number of docks in town that, just on depth requirements, coupled with length restrictions, who now have a dock which have been using for generations by that, in some places in the same family without changing, and they don't have that option. You come back in and you can't meet the requirements. So we're going to take that dock out of existence is what we're going to do, and I'm slow to do that without knowing if it's one or two that are probably shouldn't be there, then okay, but without having any knowledge of how many there are, I'm not there.
Please.
I think the way the regulations are written, we're already in that circumstance, and it's just not feasible, given the limitations on staff, for those bad consequences to happen to people. In other words, we already have the authority to tell people to remove their docks because they're non-conforming and damaging the resource, and we're not doing that because, it's just not even, it's just not doable. Now, that doesn't take care of the cases where people are coming for RDAs so that they can license their docks, which is something we would like to see people do.
That happens when you say, well, that you see that when you're having a sale of the property.
Yeah,
Right.
You see that when there's the
Right.
sale of the property.
right.
They want to come in quickly, get the RDA, get the license,
Yeah,
because, savvy people are going to say,
right, we need to have this license.
where's the
Yeah.
paperwork, where's the documentation on the structure?
Right, I guess I'm not so sympathetic in those cases. It's not, there's something nice about properties having docks, but it's not taking away a dock from somebody who is staying at that property and has had the dock all along. It's a different set of circumstances. And,
Correct. You saw one recently where staff point blank asked a person if they were selling the property. We were told
Yeah.
no.
And, right, got sold right away.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I have one more question.
Please.
And I'm maybe being naive here, but I've been taught over the years that policy guidelines don't hold a lot of water.
Right.
We're almost coming hat in hand before the applicant, asking them to voluntarily adhere to this policy guideline. And I know that gives a little bit of a leeway for certain attorneys who shall not be named.
Well, the flip side of that is we're giving them a way to get something recognized and approved when that way doesn't exist in the regulations.
Is it impossibly a logistical problem to promulgate this guideline as a regulation?
That's an option. You can come up with language if you don't want to abandon it without having language to fall back on. You'll have to give us some time to work with council to draft something or get some guidance from them. But
And we
it's something
need-
that can be done.
we'd need public hearing.
Yeah, yeah, you have to have a public hearing process,
I think that may.
public opinion, public comment, excuse me, but it can be done.
And,
It'll take a couple of
At
months,
least it
but
would
it can
have
be
the
done.
teeth of law behind it.
well,
Yeah.
and I think this is, I'm glad we're having this discussion, because I think this has been very fruitful. It's always nice to have multiple eyes looking at the same thing. I don't think we're comfortable, I don't want to speak for the whole board. The policy, I think, is flawed as it sits. But I think there's a way that we could engage with something with more of
Okay,
something toothed into the regulation as opposed to just being a random policy. This doesn't integrate into our regs very well at all. I think the time when this was done, at the time that was on, the biggest concern was, limiting the square footage of lawn on the water side of the house. It was a whole different, maturation of information. I think we're,
you started the discussion, that's the important
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah,
You
and
needed
you-
to address it, so
Should
you
I throw in
started the
one more?
discussion.
please.
Thing. It occurred to me, and I'm wondering how you're all going to react, that if we did put this in the regulations, and I'm sympathetic to the burden on staff argument, and also even more so to the fact that, they get in an untenable position about not accepting evidence where, it's just.
We have
But anyway,
no way to
what
verify
about-
that evidence, so they're asking us to just take a word for it, and that just puts us in a very, very
I know.
difficult position.
I agree with you, and I also think that, for all of these things, for everything we deal with, the burden of evidence, not,
Proof
The-
of
the-
the
it's the applicant is responsible for.
Correct.
For providing everything. I don't see why this should be any different.
Correct.
But what I was thinking was, if this were part of the regulations, perhaps we could mitigate those two concerns by, in cases that are too burdensome or too impossible to resolve by ourselves, requiring the consultant, invoking the consultant clause.
I think that would be good for the next, that's something put down for us to continue with.
Right.
To chew on that, and then, because if it does have to, there is going to be public comment, I'm sure somebody's going to write a letter. And there's,
I'd also be curious to find out what other towns surrounding us.
Yeah,
around
we'll look
us
into it.
do, how they handle it.
I didn't think you guys were gonna make a decision tonight.
Yeah.
So
No.
we'll
No,
start the
but-
discussion, I'll look into Barnstable.
Yeah, and maybe even Mashpee, or
Yep.
Mashpee's less than, but
Mm.
if they have this issue, and maybe how do they handle it?
Yep, I can check into that and gather some more information, start looking at different languages, start looking at other bylaws.
Yeah.
Okay.
and
Maybe some places like, along the South Shore, Duxbury.
Yep.
Hingham.
Mhm.
the fruitful discussion. I was not pleasant reading, but fruitful discussion. So, if we've had our want for this evening, I would take a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
That'd be Russell's motion, Mary's second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us today, Mr. Matthews. I thought you were here for an actual project. Little bird told me otherwise.
My homework.
I think that was a good discussion.
Yeah.
We didn't have it.
I just realized Mike Morselli missed it.
Field check is,
Yeah,
No, I
he's
thought he
watching
was
you on
all-
TV.
Okay.
I can guarantee he's watching you on TV.
who's that?
Mike Morselli.
Oh.
That's what he came for, and he